My daughter snapped, "Stop trying to be my dad. You're just the guy who pays for things." I replied, "Understood." Then I liquidated her college fund, sold her car, and stopped funding her lifestyle. Her mom defended her, so I gave her two options. Hey everyone! Before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. Hey Reddit. So after raising my girl for 9 years and giving her everything, she snapped at me, "You're not my father. Stop acting like you are." Her mother tried to defend her at first. I didn't say a word. I just did what she asked for. Stopped pretending to be her father. That included selling her car, liquidating her college fund, stopped funding her lifestyle, and teaching her a lesson. Here's what went down. I, 44 male, have been married to Samantha, 41 female, for 9 years now. She came with baggage, specifically a kid named Kayla, who's 17 now. Bio dad? Classic deadbeat who decided fatherhood wasn't for him when Kayla was around 4. Dude just ghosted completely. No child support, no weekend visits, nothing. Might as well have been abducted by aliens for all the presents he had in that kid's life. When I met Samantha, Kayla was 8. Shy little girl with these huge brown eyes, always hiding behind her mom's legs when strangers were around. Samantha was working 2 jobs just to keep the lights on, living in this cramped apartment that smelled like cigarettes from the previous tenant. I was making decent money installing solar systems. Business was booming with all the green energy incentives, had my own place, figured I could help out. Looking back, maybe that was my first mistake, thinking I could just swoop in and fix everything like some discount Superman. Truth is, I'd always wanted kids but found out in my late 20s that wasn't going to happen naturally. Doctor said my swimmers were basically dead in the water. So when I met Samantha and Kayla, it felt like fate was giving me a second chance at having a family. At first, everything was great. Kayla warmed up to me pretty quick, started calling me Uncle Brian instead of hiding whenever I came around. We'd watch Disney movies together on weekends. I'd help with homework. Take her to soccer practice when Samantha was stuck at work. Normal stepdad stuff. The wedding happened a year later. Small ceremony, just family and close friends. Kayla was the flower girl, grinning in this frilly white dress that cost more than Samantha's monthly grocery budget. I remember thinking this was it. We were officially a family now. The 3 of us against the world. After we got married, I started taking on more financial responsibility. Made sense, right? I was the primary breadwinner. Samantha could finally quit her second job and focus on being a mom. We moved into a better house in a decent school district. It had a yard, and Kayla got her own room with a walk-in closet she absolutely lost her mind over. The private school came next. Kayla was smart as hell, but the public schools in our area were garbage. Found this prep school about 20 minutes away. Tuition was brutal, like $18,000 a year, but I figured it was an investment in her future. Samantha cried when I told her we could afford it. Happy tears, mind you. Then came the braces. Kid had teeth that looked like they'd been installed by someone who'd never seen a mouth before. 2 years of orthodontist visits, $6,500 down the drain. But by the time they came off, she had this perfect smile that could have been in a toothpaste commercial. When she turned 16, I bought her a 2019 Honda Civic. Not brand new, but low mileage, reliable, safe. Pearl white with all the modern safety features because I'm not an idiot. Teenage girls and cars are a recipe for insurance nightmares. Spent $22,000 on that thing. Put it in my name for insurance purposes. Samantha kept telling me I was spoiling Kayla, but in a good way. "She's so lucky to have you," she'd say. "You're the dad she never had." The college fund was my pride and joy, though. Started it the month after we got married, been throwing $600 from every paycheck into a mutual fund for 8 years. Currently sitting at around $95,000. The plan was simple. Give Kayla the college experience I never had, let her graduate debt-free, and start adult life without that anchor around her neck. I thought I was building something solid. A family, a foundation, a legacy. Turns out I was just building a very expensive house of cards. The attitude started creeping in around sophomore year. Nothing dramatic at first, just little things that made me raise an eyebrow. Kayla would roll her eyes when I'd remind her about homework, like I was personally insulting her intelligence. She'd forget to do chores unless Samantha specifically asked her, even though I'd been the one asking for months. But teenagers are moody, right? Everyone told me this was normal. "Just wait until she's 16, my coworkers would joke between installations. That's when the real fun starts. They weren't wrong. Junior year was when Kayla discovered she was hot. Not trying to be creepy here, just stating facts. Kid hit the genetic lottery. Tall, athletic from years of soccer. That perfect smile courtesy of my bank account. Suddenly, she's got boys calling the house, asking her to homecoming, the whole 9 yards. That's also when the entitlement really kicked into high gear. She'd talk to her friends about the car like she'd saved up for it herself. Heard her on the phone once describing it as my Honda to some boy, not mentioning that daddy's credit score made it possible. When he asked how she afforded it, she just laughed and said something about working hard. Working hard at what? Getting driven to school in it? The grades started slipping around the same time. Kayla had always been a solid A- student, honor roll type. But suddenly homework was becoming optional in her mind. Missing assignments started showing up on the parent portal. When I'd bring it up, she'd get defensive. God, Brian, it's just one assignment. Stop being so paranoid. Not dad. Not even stepdad. Just Brian, like I was some random dude who happened to live in the same house. Samantha would always take Kayla's side in these conversations. She's under a lot of pressure, she'd say. College applications are stressful, cut her some slack. But here's the thing that really got under my skin. Kayla was talking about college like it was a done deal. Not if I get into state, but when I go to state. Not if we can afford it, but I'm thinking about rushing a sorority. Just pure assumption that the money would be there, because it always had been. She started getting mouthy with Samantha too, but in a different way. With her mom, it was typical mother-daughter drama. Eye rolling, door slamming. You don't understand me tantrums. But with me, it was dismissive, condescending, like I was the hired help who'd forgotten his place. I'd suggest family movie night and get a "that's okay, I have plans." I'd offer to help with college essay prep and get "I've got it handled." Everything was delivered with this tone that made it clear my input wasn't wanted or needed. Samantha noticed but always had excuses. She's becoming independent. That's what we want, right? She's growing up. Yeah, growing up into someone I didn't recognize. The worst part was watching Kayla's relationship with money. She'd blow through her monthly allowance in the first week, then come asking for more like it was my job to fund her lifestyle. Starbucks every morning before school. $6 a pop. New clothes every other weekend because her current wardrobe was literally ancient. Concert tickets, makeup, gas money for the car I'd bought her. When I'd suggest maybe she get a part-time job, both Samantha and Kayla would look at me like I'd suggested she start selling organs. She needs to focus on school, Samantha would say. There's plenty of time for work after college. Right. Focus on the school she was increasingly blowing off to hang out with friends who also had everything handed to them. I started feeling like a stranger in my own house. Kayla would breeze in from whatever she'd been doing, grab food from the fridge I'd paid for, head up to her room in the house I was paying the mortgage on, and not say a word to me. If I tried to start a conversation, I'd get one-word answers and dead silence. But the car, the phone, the college fund, those were just expected. Background noise in the symphony of her life. I kept telling myself it was a phase. Every parent goes through this, right? She'd grow out of it. One day she'd realize how much I'd done for her and be grateful. That was my second mistake. Senior year was when everything really went off the rails. Kayla's grades didn't just slip. They fell off a cliff. We're talking C's and D's in classes she used to ace. The private school started sending emails about concerning patterns and lack of engagement. But Kayla's social life? Absolutely thriving. Every weekend was some party or sleepover or study group that definitely didn't involve any actual studying. She'd roll in Sunday morning looking like she'd been through a blender, sleep until 2 p.m., then spend the rest of the day on her phone. When I'd try to address it, Samantha would run interference. She's been working so hard all semester. She deserves to have some fun. Working hard at what? Perfecting her eye roll technique? The disrespect was getting worse too. Kayla would walk into the kitchen while I was cooking dinner and immediately start complaining about the smell. She'd leave her dirty dishes in the sink for days, then act personally offended when I'd ask her to clean them up. I was going to do it later, became her catchphrase. Later never came. She started bringing friends over without asking, treating the house like her personal hangout spot. These kids would raid the pantry, leave messes everywhere, and not even acknowledge I existed. I was just the ghost who paid for their snacks. One time I came home from work to find 6 teenagers in my living room, eating pizza they'd ordered on my DoorDash account. Kayla didn't even look up from her phone when I walked in. Just kept scrolling like nothing was wrong. "Did you ask permission to order food?" I asked. "I texted mom," she said. Still not looking at me. I'm asking if you ask me. The look she gave me could have melted steel. Why would I need to ask you? That question hit different. Because she was right. In her mind, why would she need to ask me? I was just the guy who paid for things. Samantha tried to smooth things over later. She's just comfortable with you. That's good, right? It means she sees you as family. But it didn't feel like family. It felt like I was being taken for granted by people who saw me as a utility rather than a person. The real kicker was the car situation. Kayla had been driving that Honda for over a year, and I'd been covering insurance, gas, maintenance, everything. Kid was putting 200 miles a week on it, just driving around with friends, burning through my money. When I suggested maybe she contribute to gas costs, the reaction was immediate and dramatic. "That's not fair," she screamed. "It's my car. I need it for school." Her car. Her car that I'd bought, insured, and maintained while she contributed exactly nothing. Samantha backed her up. "She's still in school, Brian. She'll have plenty of time to worry about money when she's older." Right. When she's older and my bank account is empty from funding her adolescence. I started to feel like I was losing my mind. Was I being unreasonable? Was this normal teenage behavior and I was just being a hard ass? But then I'd look at the numbers. The $18,000 a year for school. The $400 monthly car payment that was finally done. But now I was covering all the operating costs, the $600 monthly college fund contribution, the endless stream of I need money for requests. I was supporting two people while being treated like the help by both of them. The breaking point was coming. I could feel it building like pressure in a boiler. Every eye roll, every dismissive comment, every assumption that my money was their money was another pound of pressure. Something was going to give. I just didn't know it would be me. The explosion came on a random Tuesday in March. Kayla's midterm grades had come in, and they were worse than ever. 2 Fs, 3 Ds, and 1 C-, in a class I was pretty sure she was cheating in. I found her in the living room, feet up on the coffee table I'd bought, watching Netflix on the TV I'd paid for. "Kayla, we need to talk about your grades." She didn't even pause the show. "What about them? You're failing 2 classes. This isn't sustainable." "I'll bring them up." "How?" "You've been saying that for months." Finally got her attention, and the look she gave me was pure annoyance, like I was a telemarketer who'd called during dinner. "Look, Brian, I've got it handled. You don't need to worry about it." "I do need to worry about it. Your college acceptances are conditional on maintaining decent grades. If you fail these classes, then I'll take summer school." Problem solved. The casual dismissal hit me wrong. Like she was discussing what to have for lunch instead of potentially destroying her future. Summer school costs money, Kayla. Money that could be going toward your college fund. That's when she finally turned around, and the expression on her face was something I'd never seen before. "Oh, please. Like you won't pay for it anyway. You always do." The confidence in her voice was staggering. "What if I don't? What if I decide I'm not paying for summer school?" She laughed. Actually laughed at me. "Right. Okay. Good one." Then she turned back to her show like the conversation was over. Like I'd been dismissed by my teenage daughter in my own house. That's when I lost it. Not screaming, not yelling, but something inside me snapped. "Turn off the TV. We're having this conversation now." "God, why are you being so dramatic? It's just grades." "Because I'm your father and—" "No, you're not." The words hit the room like a bomb. Dead silence except for whatever garbage she was watching on Netflix. "What did you say?" She turned around again, and this time there was no mistaking the message. "You're not my father. Stop acting like you are." Samantha walked in during this exchange, took one look at both of us, and immediately went into damage control mode. "Kayla, apologize to Brian right now." "For what? Telling the truth?" Samantha was doing that thing where she tries to play both sides. "Kayla, go to your room. Brian, let's talk about this privately." But Kayla wasn't done. She stood up, looked me straight in the eye, and delivered the knockout punch. "You want to know the truth? You're not my dad. You're just the guy who pays for stuff. That's it. That's your whole role in this family." Then she walked upstairs like nothing had happened. Left me standing there with my wife, processing the fact that 9 years of my life had just been reduced to a transaction. Samantha tried to soothe things. She didn't mean it. She's just upset about the grades. You know how teenagers get. But I knew she did mean it. Every word. Because it was true. I wasn't her father. I was her ATM. The guy who funded her lifestyle and then got dismissed when he tried to have an opinion about anything. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, and for the first time in years, everything was crystal clear. Kayla had just defined our relationship with brutal honesty. I was the wallet, the funding source, The financial enabler who was expected to pay for everything and shut up about it. Fine. Message received. If that's all I was to her, then maybe it was time to start acting like it. I woke up Thursday morning with the kind of clarity that comes from finally accepting an uncomfortable truth. Kayla wanted me to be just the guy who pays for stuff? Well, this guy was about to make some executive decisions about what he was willing to pay for. But first, I needed to have a conversation with my wife. Found Samantha in the kitchen that evening, doing her usual thing of pretending nothing had happened. We need to talk, I said. About what Kayla said? Brian, she's 17. They all go through this phase. No, Samantha. We need to talk about you. About us. About what kind of family we're actually running here. She set down her coffee mug with a look that told me she knew this wasn't going to be a quick conversation. I've been thinking about what Kayla said, and she's not wrong. I am just the guy who pays for stuff. But what bothers me more is that you're okay with that. That's not fair. Let me finish. For 9 years, I've been treated like a walking credit card by your daughter. And every time I try to address it, you make excuses for her. Every time I try to parent her, you undermine me. Every time she disrespects me, you tell me to let it slide because she's just a kid. Samantha was getting defensive. She respects you. She's just going through a tough time with college applications and… Stop. Just stop making excuses. She told me exactly what she thinks of me, and you stood there trying to smooth it over instead of addressing the problem. I took a deep breath, because what I was about to say would change everything. So here's what's going to happen. You have a choice to make, Samantha. Either you start backing me up as Kayla's dad, help me teach her some basic respect and responsibility, and we fix this family together, or I'm done. With all of it. The color drained from her face. What do you mean, done? I mean, I'll file for divorce. I'm not going to spend the rest of my life being treated like the help by people who are supposed to love me. Brian, you can't be serious. Over a teenager having an attitude? It's not about her attitude, Samantha. It's about respect. It's about being a team instead of you and her against me. It's about raising a kid who understands that actions have consequences. I could see the wheels turning in her head, probably calculating what a divorce would mean financially. Single mom again, back to the two-job lifestyle. Tiny apartment. No more private school for Kayla. What exactly are you asking me to do? I'm asking you to be my wife instead of just Kayla's mom. When I discipline her, you back me up. When she disrespects me, you address it. When I make decisions about how my money gets spent, you support them. Samantha was quiet for a long time. Finally, and if I do this, if you do this and mean it, we can rebuild this family the right way. But I'm done being the ATM, Samantha. Kayla made it clear that's all I am to her, so maybe it's time she learns what life looks like without that ATM. She agreed. Whether it was out of love or financial panic, I honestly didn't care at that point. The important thing was that she agreed. The next morning, I made some phone calls. First call, my financial advisor. I need to liquidate the education savings account. All of it. Brian, is everything all right? That's Kayla's college money. I want it liquidated. Took 3 business days for everything to clear. $97,400 total. 9 years of $600 monthly contributions, plus market growth. Next call, the mortgage company. Requested a payoff statement. I owed $78,200 on the house. The car was next. Checked the title. My name only. Looked up the current market value and listed it for $18,500 on every platform I could find. Saturday morning, the first serious buyer came to look at the Honda. Kayla saw them from her bedroom window and came downstairs with this confused expression. Brian? Who are those people? Potential buyers. Buyers for what? The Honda. I'm selling it. That's when the meltdown started. But this time, Samantha didn't immediately jump to Kayla's defense. She looked at me, looked at Kayla. Why are you selling it, Brian? Because Kayla made it clear that I'm not her father, so I'm not going to keep funding her lifestyle like one. Kayla looked between us. Mom, tell him he can't sell my car. Samantha took a deep breath. It's not your car, Kayla. It's Brian's car that he bought for you to use. The look of betrayal on Kayla's face was something to see. For the first time in years, her mom wasn't automatically taking her side. The buyer made an offer of $18,000. I accepted it on the spot. That afternoon, I wired $78,200 to the mortgage company. House was officially paid off. When Kayla found out about the college fund, she completely lost it. Full nuclear meltdown. That was my college fund! You can't do this! This time, Samantha stepped up. Kayla, that was Brian's money that he was saving for your education. And after the way you've been treating him, I don't blame him for changing his mind. Kayla looked at her mom like she'd grown a second head. The united front was something she'd never seen before, and it was clearly terrifying. But I wasn't done. Over the next few weeks, I systematically cut off Kayla's funding streams. No more eating out money. No more new clothes budget. No more daily Starbucks runs on my dime. When she complained, Samantha actually backed me up. You want to be treated like an adult, Kayla? Adults pay for their own stuff. The phone was next. I switched her to a basic plan. Calls and texts only, no unlimited data. When she freaked out about not being able to scroll Instagram all day, Samantha told her she could get a job and pay for her own plan if the basic one wasn't good enough. Private school tuition was the big one. Kayla had one semester left and I'd already paid for it. But I made it clear that if she wanted to walk at graduation, she needed to bring her grades up to at least a C average. No more skating by on daddy's money with failing grades. The transformation was incredible to watch. Without her car, Kayla was stuck asking for rides everywhere. Without unlimited funds, she had to actually think about what she spent money on. Without the safety net of knowing I'd always bail her out, she had to start taking responsibility for her choices. At first, she kept waiting for me to cave. Every few days, she'd test the boundaries, ask for money for something essential, act shocked when I said no. She'd look to Samantha for backup, but Samantha was sticking to our agreement. The job search started out of necessity. Kayla applied to every retail store in the mall, got rejected from most of them because she had zero work experience and her application answers were entitled as hell. Finally got hired at some trendy clothing store for $11 an hour. First paycheck was a reality check. After taxes, $11 an hour doesn't go very far when you're used to unlimited funding. She started understanding why I'd get annoyed when she'd blow $50 on lunch with friends without thinking about it. But here's the thing. Kayla was actually pretty good at the job once she figured out that showing up on time and doing what you're asked isn't optional. Her grades started improving too, probably because she didn't have the energy to stay out partying all night when she had to be at work the next morning. Samantha and I were rebuilding our relationship too. Turns out when you're actually functioning as a team, instead of her constantly undermining my parenting, marriage gets a lot easier. We started having conversations about Kayla's behavior instead of arguments about my unfair expectations. But Kayla still hadn't apologized. She was adapting to the new reality, but there was no acknowledgement of what she'd done or said, no recognition that her actions had consequences. She was just going through the motions, waiting for things to go back to normal. That reckoning was still coming. 3 months into the new regime, Kayla was starting to crack. Not in a dramatic way, but you could see the entitlement slowly bleeding out of her system. She'd come home from work exhausted, count her tips from the register, and realize she'd made $30 for a 6-hour shift. Then she'd look at some outfit online that cost $80 and actually have to think about whether it was worth almost 3 shifts of work. The social dynamics were changing too. Kayla's friends were all still living off their parents' money, going out to expensive restaurants and shopping sprees that she couldn't afford anymore. She started declining invitations, not because she didn't want to go, but because she literally couldn't afford to keep up. I watched her FaceTime with her friend Jessica one night, talking about some concert they all wanted to go to. Tickets were $120 each. I can't do it, Kayla said. I'm saving for a car. Just ask your dad for the money, Jessica suggested. He always pays for everything. The look on Kayla's face was pure frustration. It's not that simple anymore. That was the first crack in the armor. The admission that things had changed. Her grades kept improving. Not dramatically, but consistently. Turns out when you don't have a car to cruise around in after school, and you can't afford to hang out at the mall every day, you have more time for homework. She brought her GPA up to a 2.9 by the end of the semester. The private school graduation was conditional on that C average, and she barely made it, but she made it. Walking across that stage in her cap and gown, I could see something different in her posture. Less entitled, more aware of what it had taken to get there. Samantha and I were doing better than we had in years. Turns out when you're not constantly fighting about parenting decisions, you remember why you fell in love in the first place. We started doing date nights again, having actual conversations instead of just coordinating Kayla's schedule. Do you think she's learned her lesson? Samantha asked one night over dinner. She's learning consequences, I said, but I don't think she really understands what she did yet, or why it hurts so much. Give her time. She's still a kid. She's 18 in 2 months, Samantha. At some point, being a kid isn't an excuse anymore. Kayla had been accepted to the state university, the only school she could afford now that her college fund was gone. She was planning to live at home and commute to save money, work part-time to pay for books and expenses. A far cry from her original plans of out-of-state private colleges and sorority life. But she was adapting, learning, growing up in a way she never had to before. The apology, when it finally came, wasn't what I expected. It happened on a random Thursday night in June. Kayla had been working a double shift at the store, came home looking absolutely wiped out. She'd been saving for a used car, had her eye on this 2015 Toyota Corolla for $8,500, and was about $1,200 short of her goal. Found her in the kitchen around 11 p.m., sitting at the table with a calculator and a pile of crumpled receipts, trying to figure out how to make her budget work. "You okay?" I asked, grabbing a glass of water. She looked up, and for the first time in months, I saw the 8-year-old girl who used to ask me to help with her math homework. "I'm fine," she said, but her voice cracked a little. "Doesn't look fine. What's going on?" She gestured at the mess of papers. "I'm trying to figure out how long it'll take me to save up the rest for the car. At this rate, it'll be like 4 more months, and Jessica's parents just bought her a brand new Jeep for graduation. Like, just wrote a check and handed her the keys." There was no entitlement in her voice anymore. No expectation that I should solve this problem for her. Just exhaustion and maybe a little envy for the life she used to have. "4 months isn't that long," I said, sitting down across from her. "I know, it's just—" She trailed off, then started again. "I used to think money just appeared, you know? Like, I needed something and it would just happen. I never thought about where it came from, or what it cost you." She was staring at the calculator, not looking at me. "I never said thank you. For any of it. The car, the school, the braces, all of it. I just took it." My throat felt tight. This was the closest thing to an apology I'd heard from her in months. "And that thing I said about you not being my dad." She finally looked up and her eyes were red. "That was really messed up. You've been more of a father to me than my actual father ever was. And I treated you like garbage." The tears started then. Not manipulative crying, not teenage dramatics. Just genuine regret from someone who'd finally figured out what she'd lost. "I'm sorry, Dad. I'm really, really sorry. I know I don't deserve it, but is there any way you could forgive me? And maybe help me figure out how to fix this?" I sat there for a minute, watching this kid I'd raised cry over a pile of receipts and budget calculations. She'd learned the lesson, but more than that, she'd learned why the lesson mattered. "You know what, Kayla? I think we can work something out." The conversation that followed lasted until almost 2 a.m. We talked about everything. Her attitude, the way our family had been functioning, and how we wanted things to work going forward. "I want to help you with college," I told her. "But things are going to be different this time. No more blank checks, no more assumptions. You want something, you work for part of it, and we'll talk about what I'm willing to contribute." She nodded eagerly. "I get it. I want to earn things." We worked out a deal for the car first. She'd saved $7,300 on her own, more money than she'd ever had in her life. I agreed to loan her the remaining $1,200 at zero interest, with $100 monthly payments until it was paid off. Her car, her responsibility, but with a little help to get there. For college, we came up with a system. I'd pay for tuition and books, but she'd cover her own gas, food, and spending money through work. If she maintained a 3.0 GPA, I'd help with a modest dorm room her sophomore year. If she wanted to study abroad or do expensive internships, she'd need to figure out scholarships or contribute her own savings. "It's like a partnership," she said. "Instead of you just paying for everything and me just taking it." "Exactly. We're both invested in your success now." The apology to Samantha came next. Kayla had to acknowledge how her behavior had put strain on our marriage, how her disrespect toward me had forced Samantha to choose sides. That conversation was harder for her because it meant admitting she'd been selfish about more than just money. But the real test came a few weeks later when Kayla's friend Jessica invited her on a family vacation to Hawaii. All expenses paid, just needed spending money for souvenirs and activities. Old Kayla would have assumed I'd hand over whatever she needed and gotten mad if I said no. New Kayla came to me with a proposal. "I know this is asking a lot, but I really want to go. I've been looking at prices, and I think I'd need about $400 for the week. I have $200 saved up already. Would you be willing to advance me some money from my car payments if I agree to work extra shifts to pay it back faster?" She'd done the research, figured out a plan, and come to me with a reasonable request instead of a demand. That's when I knew she'd really changed. I agreed to the advance, and she ended up working 6 days a week for 3 weeks to pay it back early. Came home exhausted but proud of herself for earning the trip. It's been 8 months since Kayla's apology, and honestly, Our family is stronger than it's ever been. Not because everything went back to the way it was, because it didn't. We built something new and better. Kayla graduated high school with a 3.0, 1 GPA, and a work ethic that would have been unrecognizable a year ago. She's starting college in the fall, living at home for the first year to save money, but she's excited about it instead of resentful. She picked a practical major, business with a focus on marketing, because she wants to have a career that can support her independence. The car situation worked out perfectly. That Toyota has been reliable, and Kayla treats it like the valuable possession it is, instead of just another thing she's entitled to. She pays for her own gas and insurance now, budgets for maintenance, actually reads the manual when something seems off. More importantly, our relationship has completely transformed. Kayla asks for my advice now, about college classes, job decisions, even relationship stuff. Not because she has to, but because she wants to. She values my opinion in a way she never did when everything was just handed to her. Samantha and I are solid again. Better than solid, actually. We're a team now in a way we never were before. We make decisions together, present a united front on boundaries and expectations, and actually enjoy spending time together as a family. The respect thing was the biggest change. Kayla treats me like a father figure now, not just her mom's husband who pays for things. She says thank you when I help with something. She asks permission before making big decisions. She actually listens when I give advice instead of just tolerating it. Last month, she got promoted to assistant manager at the clothing store. $14 an hour plus a small commission on sales. She was so proud when she told us, and honestly, I was proud too, because she'd earned something on her own merit. You know what the best part is? She said over dinner that night. When customers ask how I got promoted so fast, I can tell them it's because I work hard and show up on time. Not because my stepdad knows the owner or something. That right there. That's the difference. She understands now that earning something feels better than having it given to you. That respect is something you build, not something you're owed. We still have our moments. She's still a teenager, still makes mistakes, still occasionally tests boundaries. But when she screws up now, she owns it. She apologizes when she's wrong. She accepts consequences without turning into a victim. The college fund? I never rebuilt it the same way, but I've been setting aside money for her education as we go. She knows about it now, knows approximately how much I'm willing to contribute each semester, and she plans accordingly. No more blank checks, but no more uncertainty either. For her 19th birthday last month, I bought her a laptop for college. The look on her face when she opened it was genuine gratitude. "Thank you so much," she said, and then added, "I know you didn't have to do this." That last part, that's everything. Looking back on this whole situation, I'm almost grateful it happened. Not for the pain and stress and months of feeling like a stranger in my own home. That part sucked. But for what came after. For the family we built from the ashes of the old one. I could have walked away, filed for divorce, cut them both off, and called it a lesson learned. But real men don't nuke their families just to prove a point. That's not strength. That's cowardice. I didn't want Kayla to grow up fatherless or end up learning life the hard way, and I wasn't about to let Samantha fall back into survival mode because she couldn't see what was happening. So I laid out the rules. I just gave them two choices. Either we fix this together, or I'm out. They chose right. And now, we're all living on my terms. That's how you win.